This is Healthcare's Missing Logic podcast, episode 112. Today we explore intention, wisdom, and grit, which are characteristics of healthcare leaders that thrive, are resilient, and unstoppable. Stay tuned. Welcome back to Healthcare's Missing Logic podcast. This is the only podcast that shows you how to leverage polarity intelligence, an essential competency for healthcare leaders, and the missing logic in healthcare, so you can create healthy, healing organizations and become a thriving, resilient, and unstoppable healthcare leader.
We are your hosts, Tracy Christofferson and Michelle Trosett. We've been best friends and colleagues for over 30 years. And during that time, we coached healthcare leaders across North America around how to create healthy, healing organizations.
Today, we coach healthcare leaders and leadership teams to live thriving, resilient, and balanced lives, combat burnout, and create the best places to give and receive care.
This podcast is for the unsung hero of healthcare, the healthcare leader. We want you to know we see you and we'll be here for you each week. In this podcast, we're going to challenge healthcare's industry norms, flip limiting beliefs, and share proven strategies so you can be your best self at work and at home, live and lead intentionally, and experience well-being and joy.
We are glad you are here and look forward to sharing the journey with you. If you aren't totally convinced this podcast is for you, just listen to a few episodes and convince yourself. Hey everybody, it's Michelle and Tracy, and we're back for another episode of Healthcare's Missing Logic podcast.
Hi.
And today we are going to share some of the lessons we've learned from the people we worked with in our Dynamic Balance Effect coaching programs, and what happens when you actually apply the framework to your life. Amazing things happen.
Yeah, we've had some amazing success stories, and a lot of this just comes from our past too, right? And the things that we've learned and how we've grown as leaders and individuals over time. So it's kind of a fun little thing to talk about. Right?
It is. It is. So we are going to start with just really some beliefs that have come to us that we have believed. Now we do believe about this work, especially after we've been in action. We have been in action for 2 years now.
Long time.
So, and what we really have come to know is that what we call true leaders, thriving, resilient, unstoppable leaders, that they really drive the creation of healthy healing organizations, and they do it by leading with intention and wisdom and grit. They exhibit it themselves, but then they actually lead an organization with those characteristics as well. Yeah. And it's so powerful because it does start with the leaders. And we know it first starts with intention to be that way yourself, both personally and professionally. And we think we should start a movement about this because of the outcomes that we're seeing.
Yeah, it is a movement.
A movement of
Get
true
on
leaders.
The wagon.
A movement of true leaders.
That's right. Yeah, it is. And, I think, we're going to talk today a little bit about why some leaders are barely surviving.
Yes.
Barely making it through the COVID pandemic and now the COVID recovery time, and who knows what's coming next, right?
Right.
And why others are thriving, because there are some. And, as leaders, we've had some beliefs, right? That during tough times and we're working really hard and, this is just how it is. Leaders sacrifice. But leaders don't have to sacrifice. And leaders can thrive in the midst of crisis and challenge. And so we're going to talk about that today and what that looks like, right, when it comes to intention, wisdom, and grit. And the problem is, right, there hasn't really been a clear roadmap. So people didn't know they could thrive, right? They thought, oh my gosh, right? They just didn't know how to get to that place of being unstoppable, of being thriving and resilient in the midst of all of what's been happening. And now there's a roadmap for that. And we've got that, right?
That's right.
And, the leaders that have embraced the Dynamic Balance Effect framework, which is what the foundation of what we use for our TRU coaching program, for our boot camps, for our self-study program, what they have ultimately developed I like to call these their superpowers, right?
Yes.
This is like their superpowers when they, really embrace and embodied that framework and done the work. You have to do the work. Then intention and wisdom and grit is a result of that. And they really these characteristics, like they live and breathe it. And it's just so much fun to see.
It is. The transformation is awesome.
It's phenomenal.
So it's unquestionable as leaders in healthcare right now that you're living through a historic time as you've battled COVID-19. And then, of course, there's all the fallout from COVID-19 as well. A lot of aftermath, a lot of ripple effects like, there's just so much going on right now with turnover. There's continuous changes that are still happening. Yeah. It's like it hasn't settled down yet, and it probably won't for a long, long time. Mm-hmm. And there's a lot of negativity in the workplace. We hear all these stories as we talk to leaders. So a lot of changes, still a lot of unease, and it's easy to question, like, how long is this going to go on, and is it really worth it?
Is it time to retire?
Is it time to retire? Yeah, a lot of you are like, is it time to retire now? And you might find that popping up into your head more and more. And it's just easy to settle into that survival mindset that Tracy talked about. I just got to get through one more day, and I just got to get through this, right? I just got to keep pushing and just getting through one day, and I'll keep my head down, I'll keep doing the best I can do, and just
keep swimming.
Just keep swimming, right? Yeah. And we get it. We see you. We've been there too. Albeit our circumstances were probably different than yours, as all circumstances are a little bit different, but we've really had that nagging thought in the past of, is this really worth it? And, it's definitely worth it, but you just have different choices about it.
Well, it does come down to choice.
It does come down to choice.
It does.
Yeah.
And we, as Michelle mentioned, our circumstances were different. We've had challenges like that, multiple, like we've been acquired twice. We went through a lot of change in our time, right? And we got to some points in our lives where we were asking, our professional lives, we were asking those questions, right? Is this really worth it when you're, on the road, sometimes for weeks on end without even coming home, right? Mm-hmm. Or in the door Friday night, out the door Sunday night, or out the door Monday, trying to manage a lot of different tensions and challenges as leaders in large company and in healthcare organizations. And, you question yourself at times, right? You question about, do I keep going? Is this what I really want to do? And I think, it comes down to intention. Yeah,
it does. Mm-hmm.
What is my intention? Why am I doing what I'm doing? And for us, I think, for me, I'll say, we were purpose-driven leaders. We were really connected to something that was a deep passion for us. It had been a part of our professional careers for numerous years. It was really kind of the fabric of who we were. And as we started to realize that fabric was a little bit ripped at the ends, right? That after multiple, working in multiple different companies, the essence of it had started to fade,
Yeah, that just brought up a lot of confliction for us, right? Because you kept thinking, oh, this is so exciting. We're bringing things to such a bigger and bigger and bigger level. And then when you realized, well, you know what? This is still worth it, but it's probably just not going to happen in this way.
Yeah.
And it's not going to happen in this place.
Yeah.
And I think once we had that realization, it changed everything.
Well, we had to quit looking in the rearview mirror.
Yeah.
At what was and realize what the reality of today was and do our work around, think about a vision, a different way of being. When you've done something for 20 years, it's kind of hard to think of yourself doing it in a different way, right? Mm-hmm. So we had to start looking through the windshield and stop looking in the rearview mirror and start creating that vision and being the creator of our lives and really thinking about, okay, like Michelle said, this is really important.
It's really important.
So we can do it differently. If we're if we have some grit, we can persevere, we can do it differently, and we can make it happen, right?
And in new ways, which is very exciting.
Yeah.
Which is why we're here.
Exactly. Why we're sharing with you today. The importance of the essence, right, of what happens when you kind of pull these different these different ways of being, these different unique components together, it really makes a significant difference. And it's really what got us through and helped us to move forward. So, there becomes this dynamic tension, and what we've been describing, right? Dynamic tension to where you are and where it is you really want to be.
Yes.
And if you want to move forward, right, like you've got to lean into that. But if you don't, then what ends up happening, if you let that tension work on you instead of you working the tension, you're going to end up right where you're at. Nothing's going to change. The tension's going to get stronger, and you're going to let go of what it is you want. Mm-hmm. You'll end up letting go of your dreams, of the things that really matter most to you, the things that you really want to have. You'll think it's just too hard, it's too much, I can't do it, right? And you'll let go of it. The other thing is you start to settle. Well, you start to tell yourself, this isn't so bad. I can do this, There's some good things here. I can, you start to make excuses. You start to settle for what's happening. I think, which ultimately what that leads to is regret.
Yeah.
Because then down the road, you're going, oh no, right? I could have, I would have. And then you're regretting the decision that you made, right? That you let go.
Yeah. And poor relationships.
That you settled. Yeah.
And cause that too.
Yeah. And then your relationships start to suffer. Your health starts to suffer.
Yep.
Right? Because that pressure and that tension builds and builds and builds, and you're inside, you're unhappy.
Yeah.
Is really what's happening. And then that just spills over into all these other areas of your life.
Yeah.
And that's not where you really want to be. It's not a good place to be.
So the good news about our story is we course corrected.
You get to be with us here. That's right. The good news.
We wouldn't be here if we hadn't course corrected.
If we hadn't gone through that. It's the experience of it. It's the
experience, and we learned so much. Mm-hmm. And now what we're learning is we've kind of taken that and we've reshaped it for more of today.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And what's happening today in healthcare.
Yeah.
And what we're finding is it's very valuable for other leaders to learn from our journey, and we're certainly learning from them too, and especially at this time where we're at right now in healthcare in the world.
Such a unique time.
It's a very unique time. And all of those years of learning these skills and building on them has just served us so well at this time. And that's why we are here to really share them with all of you. And so right now, it's kind of like coming to the fork in the road of what are we going to do with what's happening in our world today. And what is that saying by Yogi Berra? When you come to the fork in the road, take it.
Take it. Go down it.
Go down it. Go down it.
Choose.
So the fork is really symbolical of how you choose to be at this time, which we're still in we're still not all the way through the whole pandemic again and the ripple effects. In fact, there's a recovery phase that's going on right now that is still taking its toll on a lot of leaders.
Yep.
And leaders who have committed to kind of quote unquote save themselves rather than lose themselves at this time, they've been able to really live with intention, gain some wisdom, and lead with grit.
Yeah.
Just really lead with grit right now.
Yeah. In their personal and professional lives,
I
think, right?
Both.
They had to have grit in both areas these days.
Right? You do. All right. We are pausing right here during this podcast episode to let you know that the registration for the Leadership Survival Bootcamp is open. If you are like most healthcare leaders we talk to, you have been feeling exhausted, conflicted, and burned out. And unfortunately, it looks like things are going to get worse before they get better. We know taking time out to participate in a boot camp is the last thing you feel you can add to your plate, yet we are talking survival at this point. We know you are dealing with new and different challenges with the ongoing pandemic, managing staffing challenges, and just constantly navigating uncertainty and ambiguity. But there are serious consequences of not taking time for you in becoming a thriving, resilient, and unstoppable healthcare leader, and it begins with surviving the next few months. Unlike a typical boot camp, we work with healthcare leaders to develop their personal survival blueprint in a fun and engaging way. And every session is recorded, so you can easily catch up if you miss a day. So go over to missinglogic.com/new-events to learn more and enroll in the boot camp today with other leaders like you who are committed to surviving this relentless pandemic.
So, it all starts with a dynamic balance effect framework. And this is a framework that you've heard us talk about before if you've listened to us. If you're not, we're going to share something new with you, right? But there's a framework that we've developed. It's a unique combination of strategies that we've used over the years that we've been using with healthcare leaders now for quite some time. And the first pillar in that is mindful choices. So mindful choices is really all about kind of the principles, the values that guide us, and they're kind of our guardrails, right? And it's one thing to have principles, but it's another to live by them and make your choices by them.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what the mindful choices pillar helps us to do. Pillar number 2 is polarity intelligence. And again, this is about the tensions in our lives, the natural tensions that occur, and our ability to recognize them, to lean into the tension, to leverage the tension, to engage others in understanding what those tensions are, and to create, sustainable, long-lasting outcomes because we do manage the tensions. And then the third is personal alignment. And this is really about being the best that you can be because you're aligned with your purpose and the essence of who you are, and you're aligning all your actions with that, right? So you're taking action from that place, and you're experiencing your life with a sense of peace and ease and grace because of that. And if you're not watching us on YouTube, and you're listening to the audio of the podcast, we do have a visual of the dynamic balance effect on our website. So you can go out to missinglogic.com and you can see it there.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah. So let's talk about intention, wisdom, and grit. The outcomes and the characteristics. Yeah. So why intention? Why does intention bubble up as an outcome or characteristic when you really apply this? Well, if we look at the Merriam-Webster dictionary, intention is what one intends to do or bring about, or a determination to act in a certain way. So first of all, we just have to say all of our work begins with intention.
Yeah, everything.
It's probably the number one word in our vocabulary.
Pretty much.
Pretty much. But when we look at intention, it becomes an outcome when we really look at how mindful choices and polarity intelligence work together. So let me tell you a little bit more about that. For mindful choices, it really is all about intention. It's about operating from our highest values, choosing empowering beliefs, and practicing the principles of healthy relationships and dialogue. And in our work with healthy relationships and dialogue, the first principle in really living those and applying them is intention as well. So it really makes a difference when you bring intention to what you do and then make all your mindful choices related to that. And when it comes to polarity intelligence, that, of course, is being aware of the interdependent values, pairs, or polarities that are everywhere in our life and being intentional on how to leverage them and leverage those tensions. And the key things about polarity, intelligence, and polarities is when you're aware of them, you can act on both poles. So as a thriving, resilient, unstoppable leader, when you look at the tensions such as taking care of yourself and taking care of others, or work, home, activity, rest, it's having the intention to take action on both of those poles at the same time. So, and being very vigilant about that. So together, those two pillars result in leaders living intentionally in all aspects of their personal and professional life.
Well, and I think when you've got it mapped out, especially with the polarity piece,
yeah,
you're taking the actions intentionally to leverage and manage that on purpose, right? You're not just letting it happen to you.
Exactly.
Right? So let's talk about wisdom. And where does the wisdom come from? Well, the whole thing is jam-packed full of wisdom, let me tell you. But let's talk about wisdom. So again, back to the Merriam-Webster dictionary. The ability to discern inner qualities and relationships, a wise attitude, belief, or course of action. That's what wisdom is. And when we think about wisdom, it's this combination of polarity, intelligence, and then our personal alignment, right? And that's where the wisdom really comes out. So when we look back at the polarity intelligence piece, again, it's that understanding, the wisdom that's gained from understanding how this tension works between two interdependent pairs of values. And mapping that out and understanding how it works and mapping it out. A polarity map first came from Dr. Barry Johnson. And often he calls that a wisdom organizer, right? Because it's helping you to really understand. And that's what individuals who go through our coaching programs and they create their blueprints, it's like getting it on paper in a way that they can understand what's happening to them and what their action steps lead to. So it's a great tool to bring that wisdom around what's happening in their lives and make it transparent to them in a way, making the invisible visible. That's what the map does. And we kind of have them kind of transition a map into a blueprint. It's kind of the same thing, but it has a little bit different look to and feel to it. So it's a little bit more usable for the purposes that we have. A true leader also, becomes wise as the fact that when you have to dynamically balance, right? These tensions between work and home, the tensions between self and other, the tensions between doing and being. Most of us are achievers. So we tend to focus on, right, the doing parts of things. And we can overemphasize in all those different areas, right? So we know we have to manage that and we have to dynamically balance it. So it has to be flexible. There are going to be times we have to give more attention in one area of our lives than another. But what we understand and learn is not to let go, right, of that other pole, to continue to take action to get that. And leveraging the blueprint really to do that really helps give them that wisdom and aligning all of that with what their purpose is.
Yes.
What their goals are in life, what their vision is for their life, leveraging their strengths to take those actions. That's where the personal alignment piece comes in, because all those polarities and management polarities have to align with those other elements of their life. And that's what really creates this wisdom of understanding and owning their life and charting their life and being the creator of their life, right?
I mean, we're talking wisdom.
Like deep wisdom.
Deep wisdom.
Well, it's a personal wisdom of you.
It is.
And how you're showing up and what what you're experiencing and how it's either contributing or not contributing to what you ultimately want, right?
Yeah. Exactly. So now let's talk about grit.
Ooh, grit. This is Michelle's favorite, I think.
It is. She always knows my favorite things.
Yeah, I can tell.
I do. I love this grit thing. I can tell where
her energy goes.
I love this grit thing.
She does.
So back to the dictionary. Merriam-Webster Dictionary defines grit as firmness of mind or spirit. It's unyielding. And courage in the face of hardship or danger. So just grit. So I actually got turned on to Angela Duckworth's book, Grit, The Power of Passion and Perseverance. I'm going to hold it up here. I don't know how high it has to be for the camera. For those of you that are listening just to the podcast, it's a great book. And she's actually a researcher. She's a researcher that started studying characteristics of grit. And it kind of came from her own personal story. Anyway, it's a great, great read. And what she found is that no matter the domain, whether in healthcare or not, or, doesn't matter, that highly successful leaders, they had ferocious determination and they were unusually resilient and knew what they wanted. They had grit. They were what she calls the gritty leaders. And true leaders have and develop grit as well.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah, they do.
So that's what we have been finding. There's a lot of grit as an outcome. Mm-hmm. So how you get grit with the dynamic balance effect is it's really a combination of personal hang on here. Personal alignment and mindful choices. My pages are getting unaligned. You have to have vision. You have to know your purpose if you're going to be a gritty leader, right?
Oh, yeah.
Because that's what keeps you hanging on. That's what keeps you that determination. Mm-hmm. So that's really, really important. And so you have to know what you want. And when you know what you want, it's really easy to just really make that commitment to see it through. It's that persistence. It's that perseverance.
Yeah. The push, the drive.
You push, the drive. And you just keep moving forward.
Yep.
And then the mindful choices is, you won't outperform your identity. So you have to be clear on that too. That helps a lot with grit. And you have to be the person that you have to be to achieve the things that you want. And that means trading your limiting beliefs for empowering beliefs as well. So when you take those two pillars together, it's really, what gives you your personal power, your determination, your courage to be gritty and to really pursue becoming that thriving, resilient, unstoppable leader. So it's a powerful combination.
Yeah, it is.
Yes.
That's why we have all three pillars, right?
Yes.
And they all are interdependent with each other.
They are.
So it's a very powerful framework.
None of them stand alone.
Personal transformation.
None of them stand alone.
And this is what happens. So what we encourage you to do is to reflect on kind of your current realities as you listen to this episode. And I think just kind of on a scale of 1 to 5, right? 1 being weak, 5 being strong. Just kind of think about this. Like, how much intention do you have in your life around the choices that you're making? And, if you think about the tensions in your life, how intentional are you about, taking actions on both of the poles that you might, like for work and home or self and other? How intentional are you? And, on a scale of 1 to 5. Think about how much wisdom reveals itself, right? Due to the polarity intelligence that you might have or being just kind of personally aligned to your purpose and your actions. So what kind of wisdom are you kind of revealing to yourself, right, as you think about that? And then how much grit shines through to, right, kind of being personally aligned to your purpose and your actions, and then really being clear on that identity and making your choices from the principles that are the guardrails of your life and kind of ground you. So just reflect on that a little bit. Intention, wisdom, and grit. How's it showing up in your life?
Yeah, how is it showing up in your life? And, it's easy to see the unique combination of the 3 pillars really create this intention, the wisdom, and the grit that we've been talking about today. And if any one of the pillars is missing, then one of those characteristics are missing as well.
That's right. Got to get them. So imagine yourself in the future, right? Having this greatest clarity, right, on kind of who you want to be, knowing who you need to be to achieve the life that you want to achieve, living from those core principles, the things that are the guardrails, or staying within the guardrails of your life intentionally, right, moving forward. Imagine having that wisdom, understanding of what's unfolding in your current realities of your life and understanding the tensions that are working on you and how to manage those. Having that wisdom to do that with style and grace and in alignment with your purpose and the things that matter most to your vision for your life. And then having the grit to see it all through, right? To be the highest, biggest aspirations that you could possibly have for yourself and being that determined and having that perseverance to move through no matter what to achieve that. Well, inspiring.
It's very inspiring. And we've been inspired by the people that we have been working with for the last 16 months, or so.
Yeah.
And they exhibit these characteristics.
Yeah, they do.
So one of the health leaders we've been working with was a very busy executive and traveled a lot, and she made an intentional choice to stop that. But then going through our coaching program with us, had all these realizations of what she'd experienced before. Because that's what happens, folks. Because then that informs how you want to be going forward. And certainly lives today with much intention, has really learned the value of limiting beliefs and how those need to flip, and also boundaries.
Yeah, she
had a lot on boundaries.
Really setting the boundaries of her life.
Yep, and knowing when to say no, being prepared to say no when she had to say no.
Guardrails.
That's right. And just and being very intentional about how she wanted to show up at both work and home. So there's a lot happening there. And then regarding wisdom, just understanding the whole polarity intelligence, along with making some choices about a new future, changing the trajectory of how she was showing up as a leader,
and where she wanted to show up.
And where she wanted to show up. Exactly right. And then just the grit to see it through. So her and Tracy actually commiserate a lot together because they're both in PhD programs. And it takes a lot. But, the difference both for Tracy and her is when you know what you want and you've got that vision and why you're doing what you're doing. And for her, she wants to make a contribution to her field of expertise that's really quite profound. So that keeps her going. And there certainly has been a lot of grit showing up in our interactions with her. So it makes a difference when you take these 3 pillars and you apply them to yourself personally, and then you get support from colleagues around you. It makes a big difference. So just imagine what it would feel like to be part of a movement of other healthcare leaders that are committed to this and this community of being resilient and thriving, unstoppable healthcare leaders.
Yeah.
It's pretty exciting.
It's very exciting. It's very, a lot of profound changes for people.
Yeah. Yep.
So much fun to watch. Fun to watch.
It is.
So that's our episode on intention, wisdom, and grit. Go get some.
Go grab them. Go grab them.
Yeah.
They're available.
There's nothing you can't do, right?
They're available.
If you have that.
You too can have that cape.
That's right. You can have those superpowers. Definitely. But thanks for joining us today on Healthcare's Missing Logic podcast. And we look forward to being with you again in the very near future. And we hope that you stay safe and healthy in the interim.
Until next time.
Till next time. Bye.
Bye. We hope you enjoyed this episode of Healthcare's Missing Logic podcast, now a top-rated podcast for healthcare leaders. Please share this podcast with other healthcare leaders and anyone else you think would benefit. We are certain that if you found value in it, they will too. If you haven't already done so, please hit that subscribe button so you don't miss any episodes. And also, it would mean the world to us if you took a quick moment to leave a rating and review on Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, or your favorite podcast player. It helps to get the word out about our podcast and incredible guests. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel if you want to watch our podcasts. You can also follow us on our Missing Logic social media channels, LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. Until next time.